Let's get to some questions. I want to know my fetish right meow. Yeah, well, that meow is a giveaway, I think. One of the most common fetishes, and most surveys that I've seen, dominance and submission, I think it kind of, throws it up there, too, is really a compelling part of sexual desire. Now, does this mean someone wants to be dominated or overpowered, or even, any of the more extreme edges in the real world context? Do they have some sort of pathological thing in them that's praying for destruction in some way? No, that's just their innate inherent sexuality. It's normal for that person, if they're a conscious being, that desires to engage this archetypal mythic sexuality to the fullest extent possible. Yes? Yeah, so this is fantasy. This is mythic. These are mythic concepts. Again, not real world that someone is seeking to engage in. But yeah, it's not uncommon for many, primarily women in my experience, to have a rape fantasy. That doesn't mean that they want to be violated out in the world, but with a consenting partner, under agreed upon boundaries, would they like to be taken down? That's calling up again this primitive, this beast, where it's like, getting chased and pounced on and ravaged kind of a yearning. And all kinds of shadings of that storyline as well that men and women both have. Yes?
So I noticed that you don't have food up there.
Say again, food?
Food. And I'm not joking when I say this.
Yeah.
I'm actually really serious. What are some really interesting sort of food fetishes that you've encountered?
Well, there are a whole category of fetish of what they call feeders or feedees. And these are people who are compelled to gain, or gainers, they're also another common term for it. They're compelled by eating. They have an eating fetish. They want to get big. They want to be like a balloon. They want to, just become massive. And this is a compelling, and it's an eroticized desire, for instance. Now, those are the now a lot of desires that are out there are what I'll call edge play. And they shouldn't be taken on by the inexperienced person or someone who doesn't understand all the risks involved and house standards and such. So this is why this is very complex territory to be dealing in your sexuality, but it's also very compelling. And there's also a huge amount of the territory that is pretty accessible and easy for someone to step into at the right pace and start to explore. But that's one that comes to mind when you say that. What did you have one in mind yourself, if I could ask? Yeah, but that's.
I was talking about more of when people do things with food, they do really key.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of sensual. Okay, so there's a whole range. So this has a range. Fetish sexuality has a range from the sensual, to the edge of pain and degradation and all kinds of things out on this edge, and the other side of it can be very sensual. So a dominant and submissive can engage in a very sensual engagement with each other, where they might be restrained in some way, and maybe they are running an ice cube down their chest, or they're sticking a strawberry on their tongue, or things that can be. This is another part of the embodiment part of really letting your physicality be online, because this is, we live in our heads up mostly as a culture. We don't even know we have a body in many cases. So this engagement is a really great opportunity to engage the body, all the senses. The more you engage the senses, your smell, your touch, your hearing, your sound, you're enlivening your body. You're activating the nervous system in ways that your body is just going, thank you, thank you, thank you, because it feels so good.
In terms of the survey, what's the difference between the rape and dominance/submission?
What's the difference between?
The categories of rape and dominance/submission.
They are just unrelated individual line items of what people could put down of what might have been their fantasy. And obviously, there can be a lot of correlation. You know, like dominance and submission is like an umbrella that beneath that people can negotiate all kinds of activities and play styles, if you will, to open up all kinds of territory within that overall framework of the power exchange. There's also a very noble part of this power exchange of dominance and submission. You know, it's like the archetype of the king or queen on the dominant side, you know, the noble king or queen. That is, you know, setting the vision, you know, keeping order, blessing, encouraging. You know, there's a very kind of benevolent side to that aspect as well. And the submissive, and these are these are thousands of years old mythologies that are common all around the world, the king and the queen archetype. And then you have the devotee, this one that surrenders, you know, the one that prostrates themselves before the master, the guru. You know, these are old parts of our psyche that have already been online, and now they're being woven into an erotic context. Yes?
One comment I want to make in response to her question, just to give some people who may not have so much direct knowledge of this type of role and what those things could look like to help you understand what it's trying to say. Beyond domination and submission can incorporate like sex, rough sex, and the rape fantasy, but it can also incorporate things like the submissive doing tasks for their dominant, or like holding a water glass, being a footstool, dressing in a certain way because their dominant wants them to. That sort of thing. There's a lot of other things that play into it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good point. And yeah, so I look at it as there's two dimensions. There's the dominant submissive side, and then there's the erotic BDSM side. And the DS side is more of the relationship oriented, such as this young lady was pointing about your protocols, your rules of engagement, day-to-day interactions, you know, rules and guidelines and such. And the erotic BDSM side is where you let all these shadowy energies out, these things that are taboo, inappropriate, normally not engaged in, but yet consensually negotiated can be explored. Yes?
Portland recently voted the most fetish city in the U.S. Why do you think that?
Yeah. Well, we're just a bunch of kinky weirdos here. I thought it was I noticed that meme too, and I thought, makes sense to me. I mean, Portland has a large kink community in it, and a lot of opportunity for people to get engaged and involved if that's their mode in the public realm. You know, there's public parties, munches, events, etc., that be educational workshops and things that people can go in and learn, and that's what I left the tail in there for about what I call edge play. You know, a lot of these things do require you to really get some education and background before you attempt to step very far into them, because it takes a little more know-how and practice and experience to do so in a what we call a risk-aware way. Yes? I'm sorry, could you say it?
You have daughter and son up there, so I was wondering if you could put like pedophiles up there.
Well, that basically is pedophilia, in a consensual pedophilia, we'll say. I mean, pedophilia is it has a lot, it isn't exclusive to the fetish realm. It obviously has a real social, personal, or our cultural context where people are engaging unconsciously and non-consensually with underage children who cannot make a choice about what's going on. So, but one of the most common fantasies, if you go on a site like FetLife.com and you look, one of the most common engagements there is what's called daddy-daughter play. There are adult men and adult women who can bring in this mythos of bringing in, their sexuality into that mythos. And they're totally good with it. That does not mean they have any desire to engage with their real father or mother or their children. This is a mythic structure that still has a lot of compelling energy to it. In fact, in my research, one of the threads of my research is to bring this theoretical model that I'm creating into a way that I believe I could help reduce the incidence of actual pedophilia, rape, child molestation, because I think a lot of these people don't realize that, oh, I could do this consensually with an adult legal partner who could hold the energy of this place for me, which I think is a much better alternative than them to actually go out in the world and violate another person. Did that answer your question? Yes.
Is it true or common for certain fetishes to stem from specific cultures? For instance, like I hear stereotypes of like tentacle porn from Japan and golden showers from India. I was wondering if it's common.
Well, I think that's a good point, and I think there are those kinds of cultural inclinations or more prevalent. And you know, if you get on Pornhub, had some really great research statistics that you can dig into that will kind of identify keywords, the most popular keyword in every country around the world, for instance. You know, so like you see in real kind of, you know, like Pakistan or Iran, even, you know, there's like, you know, basically anal sex or teenage girls or whatever are in those countries, you know, like the most searched keyword, you know. So that's really under the covers in those things. But I don't think there's not necessarily anything innately involved in culture that produces these things. That's why I think these are hardwired. You know, we are genetic. It isn't what environment influenced these desires. They are already embedded in the psyche at birth. You know, part of the structure. That's why when you know, people before puberty are already, these things are already active in them. I think that's why they're showing up. Yes, in the background.
You bring up porn as a common theme in terms of your research, and in 2011, I attended a seminar by a male feminist talking about how porn is very anti-feministic type thing in mainstream porn because it is a very male-dominated taking type of role. Can you explain to the audience the difference between this male, not just male-dominated, but the culture of porn, which is not trying to please the female in the least, and the fetish culture, which, in my opinion, is a very different type of theme to it. Is there a difference there in your mind?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question, and I think there's no easy answers to these kinds of big questions like that. But my experience and my research is that porn is is just the product. People approach the product that they desire. So what's being accessed, what's being produced, what's being viewed is coming from the market, so to speak. Now, there's a whole section of porn, you know, feminist porn, for instance, is a growing category. Well, it's a growing category, but I mean, I think that's almost like a fetish in itself, you know. People are driven or desire a particular version of pornography that they find compelling for them. Now, not every woman is into feminist porn. You know, there's a lot of women who are in the most edgy. I mean, I've been startled at times, you know, about female sexual desire and the scope and range of it. You know, and it really is beyond these kind of politicalizations of sex to just, well, again, I said it's personal. You know, what's right is personal. You know, what you want to view is personal. What's healthy and compelling, ecstatic for you is personal. There's no way to step out into the field and say, well, we have to get rid of this kind of porn and that kind of porn, and we need more of this kind of porn. Well, no, that'll kind of sort itself out. You know, things will go dead on the internet if they're not getting traffic and people going to view it. The problem, again, is how to get people to engage it in a conscious way, where whatever their desire is, they are sticking to consensual, negotiated engagement with a willing partner.
I think for me, the thing is the dehumanization that is often portrayed in porn, whereas with your fetishes that you're talking about, the consensual, this is something that you have a partner that you're working with as opposed to
Yes.
an object.
Well, again, these sites are not great. I mean, people are voluntarily acting in and participating in the production and the use of this. I look at people as mature adults for the most part who's stepping into this. If that's what they're choosing to do, more power to them. I'm not going to criticize them all like that's horrible, because humiliation and degradation is a big part of fetish-oriented sexuality. There's a yearning to be annihilated. I mean, these are deep things. It sounds, in some levels, down if you don't go down very far. Oh, that's horrid, or how could anybody want that? But when you really get down to the psyche, the inner psyche of this compelling need to be annihilated, to be, it's like ego vanity. You're just obliterating your ego in a certain way on this level by becoming an animal or just an object or something. It's a great relief of, I don't have to keep up the mask anymore. I don't have to put on this front that I'm strong or powerful or whatever. And this category is also very prevalent in female domination oriented. I mean, the humiliation of men in that realm is like, whoa, that's really in a big type of energy to be dealing with that. You don't. But so it's not all women being degraded and abused. It's it all depends on what you want to find. And that's the thing, is this is a pantheon that is beyond the ranges that most people would even consider of sexual expression that's going on. And people are, what's amazing, and this is what you can see again on a site like FetLife, is people are finding their tribe in these really obscure aspects of sexuality, of whatever it might be. There are counterparts in the gene pool that are going, oh, you too? And it's really amazing. It's such a relief for these people to be able to feel like I'm not alone. That's one of the great things I think that's occurring in that regard.
As a college community, how would you recommend maybe talking to a partner or talking to someone, sort of one-on-one or personally,
Yeah.
Or not what you're interested in sexually?
Yeah.
Kind of in like this process of those. How would you handle that?
Well, that's a good question, and we are in the cusp of this change that's going on, where, unfortunately, a lot of people are already in relationship and have been for decades, and they've never had that conversation yet. And maybe just now, in their 40s or 50s, and I do see clients like that, they're suddenly coming alive, and they can't hold it back anymore, but their partner has no way in hell are they going to ever want to engage with that with them. And maybe they've even gotten that information, that message in some way. So that's obviously the hardest one to bridge. But there are bridges that can be found to, again, it comes back to the bottom line is it's your right to have your sexual expression and identity and who you are, and it needs to be part of your relationship. My encouragement for younger people who are not yet so partnered is, if you really have a kind of a fetish-oriented desire, or that's really like you'd like to engage that, get on sites that the dating population is also looking for those things. If you're just going out to the bar or off to the club or the gym, you're really narrowing your chances down of finding someone who's going to go, oh, that's cool. Oh, I love that, versus someone who would, the bridge is much longer. But it all comes down basically to being honest, transparent, being in integrity, being accountable, responsible, being connected, Even if you're going to have a one-night hookup, negotiated scene, it still wants to be done, as I view it, with a sincere care for that person, even if you already know. And this is what the transparency I'm talking about. So for instance, if you know that, wow, I'm in no position right now to have a relationship, and I'm not going in that direction, but I don't want to be a hermit, and I'd like to engage someone who has a mutual desire as I do, that needs to be done right out front. Can you handle if we just engage and that was the last time it ever happened? Would you be okay with that? If they say no, but your desire is that, don't engage. That's not a winning combination. Somebody's going to get hurt or feel violated or not feel taken care of or connection, because it really takes this connection. It's not this cold-hearted, objectified energy. You have to get to the place where you can, if that's what your desire, both desire is, you have to take the journey to get there. And that starts with this outer level communication and connection first, so that you are in a heart-to-heart place, clear, transparent, and care for each other.